Alright, let's get started. Number 10, Methuselah star. In the constellation Libra, there's a star that physicists wish didn't exist. Not because it's dangerous, not because it's impressive, but whenever someone runs calculations involving this star, the results come out wrong. Cosmic, fundamental, and impossibly wrong. Its official name is HD240283. Astronomers call it the Methuselah star, and the reason behind that name is the kind that could span an entire career. We know the age of the universe. This is not a guess. The Planck Space Telescope mapped the cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang itself, with extraordinary precision. The result? The universe is 13.8 billion years old. This is a definitive limit. It is not open to debate. Nothing that exists can be older than the existence of the universe itself. A child cannot be born before its mother. This is not a scientific principle. It is logic. However, HD140283 couldn't care less about our logic. This star is hurtling through our galactic neighborhood at 800,000 miles per hour, a speed that suggests it is extremely old, a remnant from the earliest periods of the universe. Its composition confirms this. It consists almost entirely of hydrogen and helium. It contains almost none of the heavier elements produced and dispersed by later generation stars. This is a first-generation object. It is one of the oldest things that could possibly exist. In 2000, astronomers studied the brightness and composition of this celestial object and calculated its age. The result was 16 billion years. It is 2 billion years older than the universe itself. Everyone panicked. This is no exaggeration. The scientific community reacted exactly this way, because 16 billion years doesn't just call the standard model into question, it completely invalidates it. This implies that the star was already burning 2 billion years before the Big Bang, before space existed, and before time began. In 2013, the Hubble Space Telescope was brought in to solve this problem. The distance was recalculated along with the oxygen abundance and stellar dynamics. The new figure came out to 14.46 billion years, still older than the universe itself. The only way physicists can sleep soundly at night is to apply an 800 million year margin of uncertainty, which, if you squint hard enough, barely, truly barely, allows the star's age to align with the age of the universe. The tension doesn't disappear. It merely becomes technically deniable. This star isn't just a curiosity, it's a fault line. Number 9, Hercules Corona Borealis, Great Wall. When examined thoroughly enough, the universe should exhibit a regular structure. This is known as the cosmological principle. It is one of the fundamental assumptions of modern astrophysics. Matter is distributed uniformly, there is no dramatic clustering, and there is a precise size limit determined by the age of the universe. Considering the 13.8 billion year gravitational coalescence process, the diameter of no cosmic structure should exceed 1.2 billion light years. There has not been enough time for anything larger than this to form. This is not a suggestion. It is a consequence of physics. In 2013, astronomers mapping gamma-ray bursts saw something that shouldn't have been there. A chain of galaxies stretching 1.2 billion light years long. Not twice that. Not 5 times that. 10 billion light years. The Hercules crown of the North Great Wall spans more than 10% of the observable universe. Even if you traveled at the speed of light, it would take 10 billion years to cross it. That is, essentially, the entire current age of the universe. A single structure. A single passage. The entire age of everything we know. Its existence defies the cosmological principle. It transcends the size limits dictated by the age of the universe. In simulations of dark matter and gravitational accretion, there's no mechanism within the current time frame that could produce such a thing. It's like expecting a newly planted sapling to instantly turn into a centuries-old oak, though this sapling is 10 billion light years wide. The Great Wall of China simply exists, even if the laws of physics do not permit it. Vast, silent, inexplicable. This suggests that the universe is unbalanced, clustered, and structured in ways our equations could never account for. Number 8. The Hogue object. Galaxy formation is violent. It is chaotic. Collisions, gravitational fragmentation, tidal forces, debris spread across hundreds of thousands of light years. We have models for spiral galaxies. We have models for elliptical galaxies. But for the Hogue object, we have none. Discovered in 1950, this object resembles something deliberately designed rather than a galaxy. At its center lies a compact sphere composed of old yellow stars, billions of ancient suns. Encircling this core is a massive ring of young blue stars, separated by a void of absolute darkness. The accepted explanation for ring galaxies is that a collision occurred. A smaller galaxy passed through the center of a larger one, sending a shock wave outward that triggered star formation. This model applies to most ring galaxies. However, there is no such bullet in Hogue's object. There is no second galaxy nearby. There are no traces of debris. There is no gravitational disturbance either. This is a galaxy with a magnificent ring, yet no explanation explanation for how that ring came to be. A structure without a mechanism, a result without a cause. And then, if you look at the gap between the core and the ring, focusing on the 1 o'clock position, another ring galaxy can be seen in the distant background. Perfectly aligned within the first galaxy, a ring within a ring. Whatever created this has left no trace of itself. Only the result remains. Number 7. CMB cold spot. When we look at the cosmic microwave background, the oldest light in the universe, the thermal afterglow of the Big Bang, we see a map of the infant universe. Small temperature variations that follow a normal distribution across the sky. There's no single region that differs significantly from what probability calculations predict, except for one point. In the southern hemisphere of the sky, there is a region about 1 billion light years wide that is significantly colder than everything around it. Its average temperature is below approximately 70 microkelvins. This may seem like a small difference, but in the context of the early universe, it is a massive chasm. The probability of this occurring by chance is less than 1.85%. It shouldn't be there. Astronomers turn to the simplest explanation: a supervoid, a vast region of empty space that absorbs the energy of light passing through it, making it appear cooler. However, research conducted in 2017 suggested that there were not enough such voids to account for the temperature difference. The numbers don't add up. This brought to the forefront a theory proposed by physicists, one that the mainstream scientific community has been reluctant to fully embrace due to its implications. The cold spot is a scar, not a void, not a statistical fluctuation, a scar, the remnant of a collision, not between galaxies, but between universes. According to this theory, our universe is just a grain of sand in an endless multiverse made up of bubbles. Billions of years ago, another universe collided with ours, and what we see today in the southern sky, that cold, anomalous region, is the permanent imprint it left on the fabric of spacetime. If this theory is correct, the CMB cold spot is the first physical evidence that something exists beyond our universe, something large enough to leave a mark on reality itself. For years we've been looking at it, calling it an anomaly, and waiting for a better explanation, but none has come. Number 6. Early universe galaxies that seemed impossible. In 2023, the James Webb Space Telescope looked back just 500 to 700 million years after the Big Bang. The expectation was clear: small, faint, chaotic proto-galaxies, scattered gas clouds just beginning the slow gravitational collapse that would eventually form structured galaxies over billions of years. The Standard Model predicts this with confidence. The JWST found 6 fully formed giant galaxies, galaxies as massive and mature as the Milky Way, galaxies containing the mass of 100 billion suns, galaxies that existed when the universe was less than 3% of its current age. The astrophysics community dubbed them universe breakers. This isn't a dramatic nickname. Researchers used it in their papers simply because they couldn't find a more accurate name. For these galaxies to have existed 500 million years after the Big Bang, they would have had to convert nearly 100% of all available gas into stars, instantly and with perfect efficiency. This exceeds the physical limits of star formation. When stars ignite, they push the surrounding gas outward. They self-regulate. They do not form with 100% efficiency. There is a natural slowing down in this process. These galaxies ignored these slowdowns. Their existence did not merely challenge the Standard Model. It also suggests that the entire timeline of cosmic evolution is wrong. We set out to find the babies, but we found the adults, fully grown inexplicably in a nursery that should be empty. We don't know how they got there. Number 5, the OMG particle. Space is not empty. It is filled with the residual light of photons from the Big Bang, a low-energy radiation that fills the entire universe in every direction. If a cosmic ray exceeds a certain energy threshold, it collides with these background photons, loses energy, and slows down. This threshold is called the GZK limit. This number is 5 times 10 to the 19th power electron volts. Above this energy, a proton cannot travel more than a few hundred million light years without falling below the limit. That is the law of physics. On October 15, 1991, the Fly's Eye Observatory in Utah detected a single proton striking Earth's atmosphere with an energy of 3 times 10 to the 21st power electron volts, 6 times the limit, from deep space. They named it the Oh My God particle. To understand what this energy means, imagine a baseball moving at 60 miles per hour. Now compress every joule of that kinetic energy into a single subatomic proton. This particle is moving at 99.999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999999 what would 1% of the speed of light? If it were to race a beam of light across the entire Milky Way, the light would win by a few millimeters. This is a violation. Out in the void, an invisible entity is firing particles at us with energy that should be impossible. We don't know what it is. We're just detecting their arrival. Number 4. Tabby's star. Stars are predictable. They shine. Sometimes a planet passes in front of them and seriously blocks less than 1% of their light, for a few hours. KIC 8462852, known as Tabby's star, isn't just dimming. It's experiencing a sudden drop. In one recorded event, the star's light dimmed by 22%. A Jupiter-sized planet blocks an estimated 1% of the light. To block 22%, an object roughly half the star's diameter would be required. No known natural object does this. The brightness dips are not periodic. They last for days or weeks. They are asymmetrical. Every pattern is different. Every event is unique. Natural explanations were proposed and ruled out one by one. A swarm of comets. For that to happen, hundreds of thousands of massive comets would all have to align perfectly at the same time. That possibility is absurd. A dust cloud. Dust absorbs infrared light and re-emits it as heat. No excessive infrared emission is observed from Tabby's star. Whatever is blocking its light leaves no heat signature. This situation forced astronomers to consider the hypothesis they call forbidden. In 1960, Freeman Dyson proposed the theory that a sufficiently advanced civilization would build massive energy harvesting structures around stars. A Dyson sphere under construction, partially assembled, irregular, and colossal, would block light exactly in this way. Scientists are proceeding with caution. However, this behavior cannot be fully explained, and this situation aligns disturbingly well with what one would expect if someone were dismantling a solar system to build a machine. Number 3, the dark flow. The universe is expanding. As space expands, every galaxy moves away from every other galaxy. This is the Hubble flow, a predictable and uniform flow. In 2008, astronomers studying the motion of galaxy clusters discovered something that shouldn't exist within this framework. Hundreds of massive galaxy clusters, all moving in the same way. Not randomly. They are moving consistently toward a specific region of the sky, between Centaurus and Hydra, at a speed of about 2 million miles per hour. This is the dark flow, and there is nothing in the observable universe large enough to cause this. The most likely candidate is the Great Attractor. However, the dark flow is passing right through it. It's passing right through it, as if the Great Attractor weren't even a factor. Whatever is pulling these clusters of galaxies lies beyond the limits of everything we can see. The observable universe has boundaries, a horizon defined by the distance light has traveled since the Big Bang. What lies beyond this boundary is invisible. However, gravity has no such limitation. If there is something unimaginably massive just beyond the boundary of our observable universe, its gravitational pull would cross that boundary and draw everything inside toward it. The dark flow is exactly such a thing, a gravitational signal coming from something we cannot see and will never see. It is a structure so massive that it has been pulling hundreds of galaxy clusters toward a point beyond what we can see for millions of light years. Our universe is not an isolated system. Something is pulling it, and this thing lies beyond the horizon of everything we can observe, in endless darkness. Article 2, the vacuum catastrophe. This is considered the most embarrassing calculation in the history of theoretical physics. Quantum field theory tells us that empty space is not actually empty. The vacuum is filled with virtual particles. Pairs of these particles constantly appear and annihilate each other. This process carries energy, vacuum energy. General relativity states that energy has gravitational consequences. For this reason, physicists precisely calculated the amount of vacuum energy predicted by quantum mechanics. Then they measured how much dark energy the universe actually contains. The theoretical estimate is 10 to the 120th power times larger than the observed value. Not 10 times, not 1,000,000 times, 120 times. To put this number into perspective, if you were to estimate the diameter of the observable universe, and your answer were off by the width of a single proton, you would still have made an extremely accurate estimate. If the vacuum energy predicted by quantum mechanics were real, the universe would have self-destructed microseconds after the Big Bang. Space would expand so violently that no structure, neither atoms nor particles nor anything else, could ever form. We wouldn't exist. Nothing would exist. Yet, here we are. This means that either quantum mechanics is wrong about the vacuum, or general relativity is wrong about how energy warps space, or both. The two pillars of modern physics, an answer that is wrong by a factor of 120 zeros. According to our own calculations, the existence of the universe violates the very numbers we use to understand it. Number 1. Boltzmann brains. The second law of thermodynamics is one of the most fundamental principles in physics. Entropy increases. Order gives way to disorder. The probability of complex structures existing is much lower than that of simple ones. In the 1870s, Ludwig Boltzmann reached a conclusion he could not ignore. In a sufficiently vast universe, random thermal fluctuations will eventually bring about any order in matter. including the human brain, with its neurons, memories, and consciousness, assembled entirely by chance. Here, fear takes on a mathematical form. The probability of a random fluctuation assembling a disembodied brain with false memories is astronomically small. However, the probability of assembling an entire universe, with a 13.8 billion year history, a solar system, a planet, a civilization, and a body, is impossible, by many orders of magnitude. This means that in a sufficiently vast or infinite universe, the number of disembodied Boltzmann brains, each believing it has a real past, each experiencing a real conscious life, has surpassed the number of biological beings with real pasts. There is nothing you can do right now to refute this claim about yourself. No experiment, no memory you can verify. Everything you remember, every person you believe you know, every moment you believe you've lived, could be a fiction, random, meaningless, already coming to an end. From the Methuselah star to the Boltzmann brain, these are not separate mysteries. They are the same crack, viewed from different angles. The universe keeps providing answers it should never have produced, and we keep finding them. Which of these 10 resonates most with you tonight? Leave a comment. I read every single one. Subscribe to Space4X. We're just getting started.